All right, before we get going on today's lesson, I'd just like you to take a few minutes and complete the frequency table, stem and leaf plot, and a histogram for this data. And this data is time spent studying in minutes. Just remember, when you have to make all three of these, the easiest thing to do is to start with the stem and leaf plot, because then you can make the others off of that. So just looking at the stem and leaf down here, for the teen numbers here, I've got a 10, I've got another 10, I've got a 15, and I've got another 15. Okay, so then I can just easily count and see in the 10 to 19 range, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and I can complete that. The 0 to 9, I had 0. So if you go ahead and do that for the rest of them, and then make your histogram. Remember, your histogram you can make based off of your frequency table. So pause the video right now and take a few minutes to do that, and then we'll go ahead and check it. All right, so here's what your frequency table, your stem and leaf plot, and your histogram should look like. Just a couple of reminders. Remember, if I were to ask you a question like, what was the most amount of time that somebody spent studying? I could look at the stem and leaf plot, because remember, the stem and leaf, we have to put that in order. So I look at the highest number on my stem and leaf, and that's 45. So the most amount of time spent studying was 45 minutes. Other questions you might get asked based off this information would be something like, how many people studied for less than 30 minutes? Okay, so if I look at either my frequency table or my histogram, I'm going to look at my histogram, and I notice that the bar for 20 to 29 goes up to 3. Well, that's less than 30. But I also have the bar from 10 to 19 that goes up to 4. Well, 10 to 19, those are less than 30. So I can look at that in 4 and 3. That would be 7 people studied for less than 30 minutes. All right, today's lesson we're going to talk about range, mean, median, and mode. So our objectives here are just to define mean, median, and mode as measures of central tendency, and describing data with a set range. And then we're going to calculate the mean, median, and mode given certain sets of data. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is range. Okay, the range of a set of data is the difference between the greatest and least values. And to compute that, to compute the range, we just take the greatest number and subtract the least number. Sometimes people will call the greatest number the maximum and the least number the minimum. So another way you might hear this is the max minus the min. Okay? So if you look at this set of data here and look at it, we find that the maximum number is the 25.95, and the minimum, or the least, is the $2.13. So again, range is the greatest number minus the least number, so we take 25.95 minus 213, and you get 23.82 for the range. Okay, again, to compute range, you take the greatest number minus the least number, or another way to say it is you take the max minus the min. All right, the next thing we're going to look at here is the mean. Okay, now for the mean, what we're going to do is we take the sum of all the numbers. Now remember, sum means you add them all together. So we're going to add them all together, and then we're going to divide by the number of values in the set. Okay, so for our example here, it's the same example we had before. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to add those all together. So when you take the $6.50 plus the $7.31 plus the $10, so on, once you add all those up, you can see that that's going to add up to $82.89. Okay? And again, that's the sum. And then the second step is to take the sum divided by the number of data values in the set. So if you look at your list and you count, you'll see that there's 9 of them in there. Okay? So we're going to take that 82.89 divided by 9, and that's going to get you the $9.21. So the mean is $9.21. Now I want to just quickly show you something here. When you do this on a calculator, you have to make sure that you add them all up and get your answer. Okay, so if you look up at the calculator here, you can see that on this first part, I added them all up and then I hit enter to get my answer of 82.89, and then I took that divided by 9 to get my $9.21. Okay, that's the correct way to do it on a calculator. The mistake a lot of people will make on a calculator is they will just type everything in at once. They'll type 650 plus 731, so on and so forth, and then they won't hit enter there to get the sum. They'll just do divided by 9 at the end. And that's what I did on this second one, and I ended up getting like 74. And the reason is because your calculator is going to do the order of operations, and all it's going to do is divide the last number by 9, and then it's just going to add everything to it. So you got to make sure you tell your calculator how to do this correctly. Okay, so remember, you add all the numbers up, get the total, and then you're going to take the total divided by the number of numbers there are in the set. Okay? So in this case, our total or our sum was 82.89, and then we took that number divided by 9, which was the number of pieces of data in the set, to get the $9.21. So I just want to make sure you're doing that correctly. All right, the next measure we're going to learn how to calculate here is the median. The median is the middle number. The important thing here is that you have to put the numbers in order. Now it doesn't matter, most of the time I just do it from the smallest to the biggest, or least to greatest. But if you do it from biggest to smallest, greatest to least, that's still going to work fine, as long as they're in order one way or the other. I just always do the smallest to the biggest. That's what I like to do. So the first thing you need to do is put them in order. So if you see step 1 here, we put them all in order. Step 2 is you want to cross off the greatest and the least values in the set, and you want to continue doing this until you end up with the number in the middle. Okay? Now this is one way of doing it to find the middle number. Some people do just prefer to count and figure out which one's the middle that way. But as you can see, when we cross them off here, we end up with the 731 in the middle. So the median of this data set is the $7.31. Okay, again, the thing I want to stress here is to find the median, you have to make sure that you put the numbers in order. All right, another example of median here. Our first example, we had 9 pieces of data in that set. That's an odd number, an odd-numbered amount of data. So when you have an odd-numbered amount of data, it's easy to find the middle. There's always going to be a middle number. Now we have an even-numbered amount of data. So we have 9, 4, 2, and 10. We only have 4 pieces of data in there. So we have an even numbered set of data. Same thing, arrange it in order from least to greatest. Now when we do step 2 here, what we run into is when we cross off the smallest and the biggest, if I were to continue to do this and cross off the 4 and the 9, I'd have nothing left. So what happens is our middle ends up having two numbers, the 4 and the 9. So what you have to do is figure out what is exactly in between 4 and 9. And one way to do that is just to find the mean of 4 and 9. So as you can see, we're just going to add them together. 9 plus 4 is 13. And then because we added two numbers, to find the mean, we need to take that sum, the 13, and divide it by 2. And that gives us 6.5. So our median of this set of data ends up being 6.5. So again, when you end up with two numbers in the middle, and again, this will happen when there's an even amount of data, you're going to have to find the median of the two, you're going to have to find the mean of the two middle numbers in order to get the median. So when you end up with two numbers in the middle, you find the mean of those two numbers, and then that mean is your median for this set of data. All right, the last new thing we're going to look at here is the mode. And the mode of a set of data is just the value or values that occur most often. So what I like to just say is mode is most. So if we look at our set of data that we've been looking at here, you will notice that the number 10, or $10, appears in here 3 times. So that's the most of any. The other ones only appear once or twice. Okay? But 10 appears 3 times, that's the most. So the mode of this one is $10. Now let's look at the other example. We've got 2 8s and we've got 2 6s. Everything else is just there once, but 8 is there twice and 6 is there twice, so they're tied. So what ends up happening here is we have 2 modes. The modes are 8 and 6, okay, and that can happen. Now, the other thing I added on here that can happen is if each value only appears once, we would just say there's no mode. And the reason for that is you can't list every value in the set as the mode, because they'd each be there one time and that would be the most. Well, we can't have them all be the mode, so we would just say no mode. Again, that's if each value is only, if each value only appears once, we're just going to say there's no mode. All right, and then just remember, for mode, you can have more than one mode. All right, the last thing we're going to do here is this learning check. So you've got a set of data here. The first thing you're going to want to do is put that set in order, because you're going to need to put it in order to find the median anyway. And then once you have it in order, it's going to help you with the range, because you just have to take the biggest number minus the smallest, and if it's in order, that'll be easy to do. So go ahead, give this a try, pause the video for a bit. Once you think you got it, go ahead and restart the video to check your answers. All right, so go ahead and check your answers here. So the first thing, just make sure you put them in the correct order. So 1.01 should be the smallest number, and 14 was the largest number in this set of data. So to compute the range, remember we just take the greatest number, which is 14, minus the least, which is 1.01. Again, remember we can think of that as the max minus the min as well. For the mean, when you add these numbers up, they should add up to 42. Now remember, that's the sum, and we want to take that sum divided by the number of pieces of data in the set. So there's 8 pieces of data in the set, so we're taking 42 divided by 8. Your mean comes out to be 5.25. Now for your median, what ended up happening here is your median actually ends up, you end up having 2 numbers in the middle, but in this case, those 2 numbers were the same number. They're both 3.005. You can see I have them circled up there. So If you were to calculate the mean of those two numbers, you would just get 3.005. If you want to try that, you could go ahead and do that. Take 3.005 plus 3.005, see what you get for an answer there, and then divide it by 2. You'll just get 3.005 again. And then the mode, again, mode is most. 3.005 is there twice. All the other numbers are just there once. So 3.005 is your mode. All right, don't forget to let me know you're done with the video and you've got your notes here, and then I'll give you the worksheet for range, mean, median, and mode.